This is a very rare move by one Ichiro Oda, because Oda of old would have cut away and gone back to the Straw Hats before we've gotten anything from Sabo's point of view. But Final Saga Oda built very differently, so much so that we have not seen Luffy and the Strat crew since March of this year. It's been literally 2 months since chapter 1078 have we seen Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates. Last time we saw Luffy, he was doing a hard gatling to S-Bear. So it's been quite a bit of time, but of course the main reason why is because of a lot of the breaks. So you could say without the breaks it would be, let's say, a month and a half, but it's been actually no, a month probably without the breaks. But because we had break after break after break, it's been 2 months since we have seen Luffy and the clique. But at the same time, the content without Luffy is still muy bueno. Now, as per usual, if you haven't seen my live stream reaction to the chapter, you can go to my Requiem channel for that full live stream chapter reaction, and of course for the post chapter discussion with the tier 3 cats on my twitch.tv channel. That's number one. Number two is that if you want to peep the edited reaction to Sanji piece, aka episode 1061 of One Piece, the masterclass, that is right now currently on Patreon, but it is slated for upload where? On my anime reaction channel, the Kingu-san channel. So that channel is finally getting a rhythm going ever since we have those issues, those big issues we had at the end of 2022, 2023, 7 months ago. Annoying stuff, but now we are finally trudging along with the anime reaction content. And of course, you know the drill. This chapter review, we're gonna break things down step by step and piece by piece with, of course, the main components here. Number one, the pace and chapter structure. Number two, the character components of the chapter. And number three, the story progression components for this chapter. So let's get right into it. So, the pace and chapter structure. For this chapter, there are a total of 5 parts. You have, first of all, real time in the Hamabaka Queendom, focusing on the Rev table talk in conjunction with a small flashback panel before Sabo and company destroy the hoof of the Celestial Dragons based from chapter 1054. That's number one. Number two is the beginning of the flashback during the reverie on the Holy Land. And it kicks off with the battle in the Domain of the God City between the Revolutionary Army versus the World Government soldiers and Admirals Fujitora and Greenbull. And after that, number three is that we cut inside of Pangaea Castle to follow Sabo. And we do get cuts here or there to Shirahoshi and Julie Bonnie. Number four is that there is a cut to Vivi in Pangaea Castle being followed, protected, quote unquote, by Rob Lucci. And then number five is that we follow King Cobra inside of Pangaea Castle, about to meet the 5 elders, the Gorosei. The pace of this chapter overall was good. I thought about making all the Pangaea Castle content into one section, which would have actually dropped the entire pace of this section to 3 parts rather than 5 parts. But Vivi and Cobra, I'd argue, do have more distinct parts, whereas Bonnie and Shirahoshi, not so much. The structure of the last 2 pages of the chapter for sure are more cluttered than the rest of the chapter. So that leads me to believe that this flashback may last longer, like a few more chapters rather than, let's say, 1 chapter, because we have to focus on Vivi, Cobra, potentially Shirahoshi, and of course Bonnie as well. However, for Bonnie, there's a chance here that we don't focus on her just yet, and then we cut back to, let's say, Egghead Island, and then we get a continuation of what happened at Pangaea Castle through Bonnie's point of view later on. But that being said, overall, the pace and chapter structure for this chapter was good. Next, of course, are the character components for the chapter, and we start things off with Sabo. Sabo does not like being called Flame Emperor, and it probably ties to the Emperor part of that epithet, that moniker. It might remind him of his younger years as a noble of the Goa kingdom, where he hated being a noble and he did not look down on the poor people of the Great Terminal. So for him, it's possible where being called Emperor does not jive with his morals at all. So that right there, a little sprinkle for characterization for Sabo, number one. Number two is going to be Karasu, hefty for his character. So Karasu ate the soot fruit. He is a soot human, aka a global warming human. It is very likely a Logia ability, since soot is a natural substance found after burning materials like plastic, oil, wood, and so on and so forth. So like most Logia, he is intangible given his element and can move his body in a particle-like fashion. His style of Logia ability shares a lot in common with Crocodile, who is also a particle-style elemental Logia. And we do get a showcase for Karasu's move. So number one is the Kara Soot. He shoots out a crow that's made out of soot from his own body. And he can also communicate via that crow to relay information. How he speaks through the soot,
no idea.
No idea. It could be another version of, let's say, how Kinemon can communicate through farts. No! We're not too sure at this point in time. What we do know is that the crows are strong enough to carry a person, since we have seen this in chapter 794 when Sabo is riding one of the crows as they leave Luffy and company in Dressrosa. So that is the Kara Soot. Then we have the Obelisk attack, where he makes these obelisk style spikes that shoot from the ground where he passes by. They're very fast spikes and they do pack a punch. After that, we have a technique called the Crow Soul Lotus. So Karasu breaks apart his body into a Murder of Crows swarm. If you watch Haikyuu, you know all about the Murder of Crows. But the Murder of Crows essentially is that Itachi style breaking apart of his body into a crow swarm. And we have seen him do something similar in chapter 904. But in this case here, the Murder of Crows actually focuses their attack on a particular someone or something, and they are swarming Fujitora from all sides. Karasu is powerful enough to warrant a meteor strike from Fujitora. So when it comes to character components for this chapter, Karasu is easily the lion's share. After that is going to be Lindbergh. So Lindbergh, we see another one of his inventions, and it's called the laser shooter. His bazooka style gun fires off a beam of light that can cut through any chain material, easily freeing the slaves from their shackles. And if you noticed here, the beams of light might be fired from the same gun he uses to fire off the cool shooter that we saw in chapter 904, the same attack that he used to instantly freeze the guns of the pirates that were raiding the Lulusia kingdom. And that is it for Lindbergh. After Lindbergh is going to be Morley. Morley is strong enough to keep Green Bull at bay. Even though Green Bull is not going all out, he is handicapped. However, this still is, as stated by CP0 in this chapter, to be an impressive feat to stall a handicapped admiral. After that, of course, they themselves CP0, where Jabra, Caulifla, Bluno, Fukuro, and Kumadori are now all confirmed members of CP0. Caulifla, and I think Bluno as well, were stated to be and shown to be CP0 in film Red. So it only makes sense the other members of CP9 in the pre-time skip, after their training and the cover story stuff, and also the time skip, they would also be CP0 agents. So that is it when it comes for the character components of this chapter. Overall, Karasu's lion's share, and it is good stuff. Finally, the story progression components for this chapter. Off the gate here, Sabo revealed that he had 3 goals when he raided the Holy Land, and he had achieved all 3 of those goals. Number 1, They destroy the symbol of the celestial dragons and they declare war on the world government. And we did see this in chapter 1054. Number 2 was to free as many slaves as possible and take back Kuma, which of course mission achieved. And number 3, destroy the food stockpile they had in the Holy Land.
Look at us. Look at us. Huh?
That right there is a very impressive display to make these fat cats suffer, particularly in said fat category. They're targeting their blubber. Good move. So all 3 were achieved, and that is absolutely a win for the Rev and Sabo. And because of their actions at the Holy Land, the Navy's strength was occupied there, allowing for 8 of the 12 countries that had uprisings at that point in time to succeed in their revolutions. And those 8 countries, now 7 of course, minusing Lulusia Kingdom, have new leadership, and those new leaders have cut off the heavenly tribute to the world government, and they've also stopped exporting their natural resources. On top of this, a very important note here too, on top of this, Eva states that all around the world, around the entire world, revolutionaries are attacking the government cargo ships, cutting off even more of the Holy Land's food supply. So given all these things, it really does feel like the global war has already begun. We are incrementally finding out that the world is swelling up into global war and pandemonium. So that right there are impressive steps by the Rev, for damn sure. But Dragon then explains that the real fighting that they're, let's say, preparing for is going to be against the Holy Knights. And then Eva double taps, noting that it's Sabo that they are going to be targeting the most. The Holy Knights are going to be aimed for Sabo particularly. So the Holy Knights were referred to by Kingu in chapter 1054, and they apparently intervened in the situation with St. Mosgard attacking St. Charlos. So it seems that they have the right to mediate and manage issues between celestial dragons, unlike, let's say, CP0 agents, where the Aegis Zero part of them, that shield part of them, they're just tasked with guarding the celestial dragons. So on paper, off the rip, the Holy Knights have way more jurisdiction and more power than CP0. How much more power?
I don't know.
No idea. Absolutely no idea. Only time can tell. However, we do get some silhouettes here. And based on the silhouettes, one of them does look like Shanks. And a lot of people, a lot of cats on the World Wide Web are pushing the idea that when Shanks, quote unquote, Shanks met the elders, it wasn't him, but it was his twin. It was his twin brother. It was a clone, something of that sort, right? It is possible that these folks, I think, could be related to the Figal land family, which of course was first mentioned in One Piece film Red. Therefore, a relation to God Valley incident, also likely, yes. So Shanks in some way could be related to the Holy Knights. And it's not actually Shanks himself that was talking to the Gorosei, though it does seem unlikely. However, this person could easily also be Higuma the bear. Same build. It could also be Gin. It could also, let's say, be Tom-san. It could be a clone of Ace, Kuino, whoever, whatever. Don't be surprised if the silhouette that we see looks nothing like the actual Holy Knights themselves. Just like how Kaido and Big Mom's silhouette in chapter 432 look nothing like themselves as they actually are. And the same thing goes for the original warlord figures in chapter 69. Just because we see the silhouettes does not mean that they actually look like that, and that could be Oda embedding a false sense of curiosity there. All we simply know is that the Holy Knights can mediate issues between celestial dragons, and according to Dragon, they're the real deal. They're the real deal. That's it. That's all we know. So in the future, it may warrant for me a theory video. At this point in time, I don't want to go too far with the Holy Knights. Now, the next part of the story progression is that we see one of the main images of the article about Sabo killing Cobra that got the Rev Cat spooked in chapter 956. It is literally a caught in 4K moment. Like, that was a damn. Cobra on the ground, blood, Sabo, Studley, pipe, and everything. But that really was a bad shot. And it makes you wonder how on God's green earth did they get a shot like that? I'm thinking probably Bluno, door, snip, snip, and then he's out. That's my guess here. Finally, the last section for the story progression here is that we get the flashback material on what happened in the Holy Land when a few good men raided it. So we have the Rev Captains holding their own against the Admirals 1v1, albeit they are handicapped admirals because of the Celestial Dragon presence in that area. However, right? As what CP0 say in this chapter 2, the captains are serious business. They are not pushovers for being able to fight against handicapped admirals. Fujitora finding it necessary to drop a meteorite on Karasu is a testament to how they are not pushovers for the admirals. It is what it is. Speaking of which, we do learn a bit about Karasu's powers and skills, likely Logi ability with the Soot Devil Fruit. This makes Karasu the 12th Logi ability user in the story that's currently alive, assuming that Monet from Punk Hazard is genuinely dead. And also, keep this in mind too, it is revealed that Karasu, in the data books, it's revealed that Karasu can both use observation and armament hockey. Yes, he has both those abilities. After that, we find out that Sabo did not take part in the fighting initially in the domain of the gods main city. Instead, it was in Pangea Castle. And one of the things that he needed to find were the keys for the collars. And he also did spot Kuma as well, because yo, oh my God, what a fiend. St. Charlos, oh man. St. Charlos double tapped on the Shirahoshi thirst button and went into Pangea Castle looking for Shirahoshi after Mjosgard deaded him. Not good. Not good activity. And what's also not good is Rob Lucci following Vivi to, quote, protect her. Also, not good activity. So, Rob Lucci catching a loss. Mjosgard, he clicks on the thirst button for Shirahoshi too many times. Also an L. And King Cobra couldn't bring Chaka and Pell bars into the room with the 5 elders to protect him, but he is still going about it without any hesitation at all. So King Cobra still Studley. Pell and Chaka can't pull up, but we know eventually that King Cobra will die in the flashback real soon. So that is it when it comes to the story progression components for this chapter. Overall, final thoughts. This chapter I thought was a pretty good chapter of One Piece, because we are moving the story along beyond what's going on with the Straw Hats. Over the past 4 to 5 chapters, we have gotten so many important bits of information for the overall story itself. I do wonder if we're actually going to find out what Cobra says to the 5 elders, because with Clover in the Ohara flashback, it was muted, it was cut off. But I'm hoping that we have King Cobra doing similar, and we don't get the full scope, but we do get more compared to, let's say, what we got with Clover way back when during the horror flashback. And we also have to find out how exactly Sabo got marked up too, because we do see how Sabo in chapter 1060, when Sabo's calling in Dragon the boys, Sabo is marked up when he calls in on the Rev. So how did Sabo get marked up in the first place? Don't know. Doesn't involve the admirals, doesn't involve the Gorosei, holy knights. Itself. I do have to wonder. So there's more to come, though I feel like at some point in the near future, Oda and company will come back to Luffy, because it has been 2 months since we've seen Luffy company, and they may start to wonder, hold on, are we gonna actually lose fans' interest because we're away from the main characters for too long? But we can, let's say, pick it back up via Jewelry Bonnie. So that all being said, the chapter I thought was a very good chapter of One Piece. So I'll give it a rating of a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10 for this week's greatness. And there is no break next week. No break for the next chapter. One Piece is absolutely a beautiful thing to see.